Thank you very much. A huge welcome to everyone tonight for the launch of Ohana, where learning becomes an adventure. It's a brand new relational online school that is more than just a school. I'm Tom Rogers, I'm a teacher. I'm also the founder of the biggest independent grassroots media platform in the UK for teachers, Teachers Talk Radio. And I am absolutely delighted to host this event tonight, which will dig in to the future of education in this country and, of course, beyond. Online education is one of the most important emerging spaces in this area. And I'm personally really interested in what Ohana has to offer here. And actually, myself and one of my fellow hosts on TTR, Tim, had the opportunity of talking to Charu last week about this very platform, and it was absolutely brilliant. So do check that out if you get a chance as well. I want to offer a massive thanks actually to Charu and David, two of the most passionate people I've come across in recent times in terms of education, for inviting me to host this event, which is a great privilege for me, so thank you very much. One little note before we get started and introduce the first speaker. If at any point you or anybody else in the room needs a movement break, this entire thing is being streamed downstairs in the vault, so feel free to leave at any point you want and return. And the fire exit is literally the front door coming out. Our first speaker is somebody whose career spans music, broadcasting, education and advocacy. But perhaps above all, she's someone who's dedicated her life to helping people find their voice. Carrie Grant MBE is one of the UK's most respected vocal coaches and broadcasters. Many will know her from television, where she's appeared on programmes like Fame Academy, Pop Idol, One Show, Loose Women and lots of others. But behind the scenes, she's worked with artists, performers and presenters throughout an extraordinary career. Beyond broadcasting, though, she's someone who's passionate about inclusion, neurodiversity and children's well-being. And she's been a tireless advocate for families, young people and those with additional needs. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Carrie Grant MBE.
It's a great privilege to be here this evening, and I feel like I'm in a room of experts, which is making me slightly nervous because I feel like you all know so much about the area that I'm going to speak about. But it is so great to be amongst family. It's great to be here among people who want to make a difference, who want to see change. And maybe that's come because of your own family and your own situation. I love you for being in the room. And for some of the others who are professionals and maybe don't have any connection in your own family, wow, thank you for caring enough to show up and actually make those differences and want to make those changes for our children.
Our next speaker is someone who is rethinking education and what it can look like in the 21st century, and that's Charu. So Charu is co-founder and CEO of the O Education Group, which is an organisation which is committed to designing schools that better prepare young people for the world in which we now live. And today it's all about Ohana, which is a new relational online school doing things differently in the virtual world. So without further ado, Charu.
Sometimes a child can feel like the world is moving on without them, until something shifts. Something reaches back. And where there was silence, there is movement. Wonder begins to gather. Like a murmuration turning in the sky, one small moment becomes the start of something bigger. A little anxious, a little curious, a little excited. Drawn toward a place where they can belong, where they can feel safe, where they can be seen. A world of fellowship, adventure, finding your people, learning differently, discovering what is possible. A place where every child can grow in confidence and achieve their personal best. Because we do not become ourselves alone. Because Ohana means family. And family means no one gets left behind. No one gets forgotten. Ohana. We are Ohana.
Thank you, Tom. Carrie, what can I say? Obviously, thank you. Very. I think that's just a reflection of everyone in this room for sharing your story so honestly. And I had some goosebumps when I was listening to you speak. Obviously, for the honesty with which you've shared your story. But the goosebumps were around, oh my God, we've not spoken about these things before, but everything that you've said, it's Ohana. And that really, really sticks with me. So thank you, because when we started off on that journey in terms of developing, I'm going off piece, sorry, and I will as I talk, and please tell me when I need to shut up. But when we started developing Ohana, it was thinking about children that you've described, your family. But to actually hear it, from you, and for you to have said exactly that around, I wish it was there when my child was of that age and it would have helped him. Well, over the last 5 weeks, we've been on a sort of journey ourselves, up and down the country, visiting, doing lots of shows, doing lots of road shows in the build-up to the launch of Ohana. And as a team, when we were developing Ohana, it was exactly that. It was the rule breakers. It was like, let's talk about gaming. Where are the children? They're gaming, right? Let's build a school. What? Yes, let's build a school. Let's build it in a game. And one of my dear colleagues will say to me again and again, don't be afraid of using the word game. And that's fair, because game, school, screens, addictions, that's what it's generally expected. And I guess it's really about what tonight is about, is stories like yours. And we'll hear many more, and I'm really, really looking forward to hearing them. I'm also really excited to have one of our students here who's going to share her education journey with us. And it's a privilege to be in the room to have all these experiences shared with us. So tonight, we're not just launching a new way of education. We are actually asking a much bigger question. We're asking, what must education become if it is to genuinely meet the needs of every child? So let's start with a simple thought. A child says, I can't go to school. The adults hear, I won't go to school. The system records it as unauthorized absence. And there's a difference in what the child is saying and what the system hears. The child is communicating something is wrong. The system is assuming that the child is making a choice not to engage. And this assumption then leads to more issues. Distress is labeled as defiance. Anxiety becomes labeled as non-compliance. The individual story becomes an attendance code. And the problem, family, the family in crisis becomes that problem family. And I've said this many times. Absence is communication. But let's be clear, that doesn't mean attendance isn't important. Education matters. Schools matter. But if our only measure of success is getting a child back through the school doors without understanding what the barriers were in the first place that stopped them getting in there, then we haven't solved the problem. Instead of asking, how do we get this child back to school? Perhaps we should first ask, who is this child? What happened to them? What are their strengths? What were those barriers that stopped them from going to school? What helps them feel safe? what helps them feel seen. And it was that repetition of seen that you said, the experiences of children, of all the parents here and children here, that is important. Because every meaningful learning journey begins with the understanding of the learner. And what that in essence means is that it begins with connection. And this belief isn't something I learned from a textbook or even from my own professional experiences. For me, this is deeply, deeply personal. As a child, and even as an adult, I found myself feeling that I didn't really fit in. I experienced the world very differently. There were moments when I questioned whether I was truly ever going to find where I belonged. There were many failures, lots of self-doubt, and despair for the future. Honestly, no one believed that I would leave school with any qualifications. And looking back, I realize how easily my own story could have gone in a very, very different direction. Rule breaker, yes. Potentially criminal, yes. Thank God we didn't go there. But the difference wasn't that life suddenly became easy. I was lucky enough to have finally, and for the record, through my school journey, which was in India, but very similar because at that time I wasn't a Brit, I am now, but the Brits left behind a great legacy in India along with the great education system. So it kind of follows suit. It hasn't worked here, it's not working there. But what happened is I was lucky enough to have found a teacher who saw me, who took time to understand me, who showed me that education actually had the power to give me agency, independence, and choices, and take control of my own destiny. So that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to do something about education now. And I left school, yes, with lots of qualifications, but it didn't stop there. I then went on to university and I got a master's in clinical psychology. I studied law and then had the great opportunity to come and work and live in this country. And that really changed my life. I've worked all through my professional career within different parts of children's services, been part of large organizations that have run children's homes, fostering agencies, special education schools, and I was a qualified head teacher, so I've worked in the cold face and I've headed a residential special school as well, so been there, worn the t-shirt. And I've worked with some amazing, amazing professionals. You know, in the main, people who work in the children's world come in to make a real difference to the lives of children. And then they come to work. And I say that because then they come and belong and work in organizations that unfortunately are built around systems around them, which means they expect children to fit into those organizations. Obviously, didn't work for me I worked for a bit, but it didn't work for too long. And quite quickly, I think I became unemployable. And that was a blessing because it gave me an opportunity to think about what might I do differently and how could education be different, and took that bold, mad, crazy step with Shilpa here, who's my co-founder but also my life partner. And we've been on the journey together for the last 30 years. And Shilpa and I had saved some money for a deposit to buy our first house. And I went home and I said to her, I have an idea. And she was like, okay. So I sat her down and I said, we could eat. Yeah, I know we've got the deposit. We could buy the house or. And she was like, okay, try it. If it works, great. Hopefully we'll be able to buy the house again. If it doesn't work, that's fine. But promise me you won't try anything like this again. Okay, yeah. That was the beginning of Odyssey. Odyssey, our schools, so we've got a couple of schools geared mainly for neurodiverse children because we felt that there needed to be something different in schools, in education, for children who needed calmer, smaller, more nurturing, connecting environments where they were seen, heard, and we've seen that. Odyssey has shown us the impact that the right environment, the connection, the teacher being able to see and understand the child, it has shown what that means for children. It has been our absolute privilege to see so many success stories of children who've been out of education for 3 or 4 years before they've come to our school, and then they've left us with 8s and 9s in their GCSEs. Absolutely amazing. Changed, transformed lives. We only set out to change one life. We've managed to do that. And it's been an absolute privilege. But then we asked ourselves another question. What about the children that can't even come through the doors at Odyssey? What happens to those kids? And, my colleague said to me, well, they're at home. Well, what are they doing at home? Well, they're in their bedroom. Doing what? On screens, playing games, or on social media. And we thought, okay. And that was the idea for Ohana. It was, well, let's meet children where they're at. Let's meet them in their bedroom. Let's meet them in a way that they understand and relate. And let's try and increase that presence. Let's try and build that village, because we know it takes a village to raise a child. And that child sat in their bedroom with parents who've tried everything, not being able to actually get the right help at the right time. They're not part of a village. They're part of a real struggle. And that's where we've really, really tried to ensure that Ohana has been shaped by the experiences that we took from Odyssey. So all the experiences of what good education, meaningful, impactful education means for neurodiverse kids were the foundations with which we laid the foundations for Ohana. And we know that has helped us create, and we'll give you a sneak peek into that in a minute. But we know that it has helped us create a really unique school. But we soon found out as we were developing that the school that we've created is actually not just for neurodiverse kids. It's actually a school for all children. Because when we design education around children who face the greatest barriers, we often create something better for everyone. And I think that was really powerful for us to discover that. Because every child needs to feel safe. Every child needs to be understood. Every child needs to belong. And every child needs to be seen. So here's the Ohana paradox. It's an online school, so we should be showcasing technology. But all we've been talking about is connection, being seen, belonging. Because it isn't technology and being, I've been asked this, isn't the fact that you're getting someone on a computer and you're going to get them onto an online school, isn't that going to isolate them even more? And my answer to them has been, well, no, it isn't. Not if online education is designed with human connection intentionally. And that is exactly what we've done when we've developed Ohana. The more we've embraced technology, the more connected we've become about how children need that human connection. Behind every avatar in our school is a real child. Behind every screen is a teacher who knows and connects with that child. Ohana should not ultimately be judged by the sophistication of its technology or the beauty of our digital world, which we also call the Ohana realm. It should be judged by the success the child feels because they want to be there and learn. Whether the parent is finally able to exhale, and when the young person can say, I can learn here, I belong here, I feel I have found my people. That is the education that we are here to build. changing education, changing lives, by design, with intent. So I've told you about the why for Ohana. I'm now going to pass you on to some of the other magic makers who've actually been the guiding force with me in terms of creating everything that we've built. So let's give you a little sneak peek into the how. Thank you for listening.
My name is David.
My name is also David, as you know.
And we've got a third David who's not joining us on stage, but he is watching very ominously from behind you. So if you want to look around and see the third David, he's right behind you. We've got the privilege of showing you a little bit. Oh, that's cool. We've got a little bit of the privilege of showing you what Ohana looks like. So and kind of showing the proof is in the pudding a little bit. But before we do that, I want to ask you all to do something a little bit weird with me. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons player. I love role play, right? Who said that? So I'm going to.
It is quite shocking when you say it, though, Dave. I mean, everyone's shocked.
So I'm going to ask you all now to imagine your first day at school. You're walking along and you're going to a new school. You might not really want to go to that school, but you're going anyway because you've been turfed out the door by your mum. On your way to that school, you fall through a portal in the ground. It opens up below you, it's magic, it's sparkling, and you shoot through it. And you arrive in a dark, mysterious forest. You walk through for a minute, and you get the sense that something isn't quite right. You turn a corner, and you see a building. The building is old. It looks kind of cool. Maybe you should have a look a little bit closer. But it seems to be missing something. It seems to be like it should be full of wonder and magic, but it seems dark and dingy instead. You creep a little bit closer, and then a little bit closer, and you realize the door is unlocked, and maybe you rule breakers want to go inside. You move slowly closer, and you peek inside. And the door starts to magically swing by itself. You think, oh no, I'm caught. Oh no, I wasn't looking. I was just leaving to the tree. But before you can make your excuses, a little blue fairy creature spirals up and says to you, hold on a second. How'd the door open? How'd you get in here? Did you have a key? It looks at you intently, looks in you in the eyes and says, hold on a second. You've got that magic thing. That's the thing that this place is missing. That's the thing that I used to have. Oh, we need to go. Follow me. From there, that's where your first day at school starts. That's where Ohana starts. That is the storyline to our very first quest. That is the very first day that each child will have in our school. That thing will happen. They will turn on a laptop, they will make a character, they will fall through that portal, and they will arrive at that building that is missing something that only you can help. Our story starts with the child being the hero of their school day, not starting with failure. Our adventure starts, and they adventure into wonderful, magical, different rooms, which we'll show you in a second. They get portaled to different places, and inside there is quests that only they can help with. And what we are teaching from the start is you belong here. In fact, you are needed here. You're the hero. And as we continue through our day, that actually maybe, hold on a second, maybe that learning, maybe that trying, maybe that picking yourself back up, maybe those things are what makes me a hero. And maybe I've got the superpower that other people need. So, that's where we start. That's where I've been told I've only got 3 minutes of D&D and then get off the stage. No. That's where we start. And so I want to show you some of those things. We have been developing this for the last 6 months. Yeah. The ideas have been floating around for 12 months-ish. But we're going to give you the sneak peek behind the scenes. It's not completely finished, but we want to show you anyway. So if you'll join us, and if we can play the video, we're just going to talk for the next 7 minutes over the top of some video and maybe explain what it's going to look like.
So you're going to notice a very well-positioned block there in front of the password, just so you can't log on. Which we only found afterwards.
So, as I said, your adventure starts with logging in. You don't get to see the password. Your adventure starts with logging in. And the first place that you arrive is your magical wizard's tower. We call it the hearth. Inside here is the things that you're going to do that day. Inside here is your quests, things that you might need to help with, and inside here is where you might meet other people. And David, can you tell us a little bit about these doors we're looking at?
Well, yeah, fundamentally they're just parts of the other parts of the realm, and so the realm itself is currently that's cheating. We don't really do that in real life, but this fundamentally has taken us straight into the quest of minds, which is the thing Dave was talking about earlier. We've got Omi. You can talk to Omi. Omi is an LLM-based system. It's a very, very safeguarding-led LLM-based system, so kids can talk to them anytime. At the moment, his functionality is pretty limited, but as we get towards launch, he's going to be able to tell you when your next lessons are, help you with your homework, all of that sort of stuff as well. So lots of this works at the moment. It's all personalised. But the Quest of Minds, I wanted to ask you, Dave, said, Quest of Minds, obviously, it's a game that the child can play and the learner can play, but also what we get out of it is some metrics and some information on what sort of child we're dealing with. And so I wanted to ask you, Dave, what was your concept behind Quest of Minds? What are the things that you really wanted to find out from the child by running this?
Yes. So the first quest that we spoke about is the first quest that we spoke about is a way to make a learning profile for the young person. So it looks at everything from cognition, memory, sequencing. We look at sensory needs, preferred ways of regulating. We have all these questions that we actually answer just from playing parts of the game. So you're seeing inside one of the very first quests. That inside here, when we get Omi's voice all working and everything, it will be telling you, as you can see, that there's a secret path. There's a secret path in here. All the crystals are humming, and if we can work something out, we can make the magic turn back on in this room. So as we do this, we work through different patterns, through different sounds resonate in different places, and we actually start looking at that child's ability to sequence things, recognize patterns, but also the problem solving skills. So it starts to give us information, all while playing a game. And as you can see, it's got no roof yet. We're not finished. We're obviously not finished They're not finished the building. It's also a wee bit empty at the moment, and it's got things to the side.
And there's a ridiculous scarf on this character as well, which doesn't actually work. As you can see, it doesn't wave. It's like a solid scarf that's had too much, starch put in it.
Yes, 100%. So, David, tell us a little bit more about the safeguarding, the kind of profile of things that we've built into the back end.
Yeah. So it's continuous, really. So the other thing is obviously you're a learner. You log in, and from the moment you log in, we're looking at the metrics behind that, which are safeguarding led. Like, are you away from the keyboard? Are you actually engaging? If you join a lesson, are you engaging in that lesson? Have you done anything? You've also got a safeguarding button, so if you've got concern, anytime you can touch it, that will go straight to your teachers, or then it will get then it will also go to the safeguarding leads and be escalated throughout the school, eventually to Charu, probably, if she's lucky. So fundamentally, all of those things are running all the time. What we're really working on is how can we use all of the data we're getting on the back end from this to just improve the learner's experience, to reinforce reinforce what we're trying to achieve, which is to make them interested in learning and make them come back to this and come back to it again. So safeguarding wise, there's also that the teacher can raise safeguarding complaints. Omi itself, they're talking to Omi. Omi's going to raise safeguarding complaints or concerns on their behalf. So for instance, the learner's talking about something about alcohol, self-harm, something like that. Omi will detect that and start notifying the teachers. We need to turn off the thing where it acknowledges to the student that the teacher has read a message that they didn't send. But yes, fundamentally, this is the whole purpose behind this, is to keep that safeguarding-led approach and to just improve and improve and improve as we get more data.
So this is a bit of a placeholder at the moment. This will be a world that's all connected. all connected from one end to another. And actually, there's this outside environment that's just a holder will be a place that our young people can explore. And a big part of this is there's going to be quests that that run throughout the day that reinforce the learning. But the other really important part of this is also the learning, which I think we're about to see.
We are, and unfortunately, about to see the learner is a man with very crazy hair who hasn't really slept properly for about 2 weeks. So I apologise.
So you arrive in a classroom, and you're inside the classroom, but you're also inside a lesson.
Now, as an adjunct to that, this is so to show you that's the learner's view. They're coming, but this is actually the teacher's view, which my lovely wife here, who's also a teacher of the education group, is performing with someone who's not related to us at all.
This is what you would experience. So you join the classroom. You can still look to your left and see your classmate with flaming hair. You can look to your right to a gentleman who's dressed like a frog, maybe. And but on the screen is a full lesson. So I go from questing, I go from adventuring, I go from trying to find the magic of this realm into lessons. And I'm not going to spoil any storylines or anything like that, but the quests that you go on, they only matter when you kind of cash in the things that you find in the classroom. And in the classroom, you get more quests. So it's kind of a virtuous circle. If you want to play the game, there's a class. Now, what we expect is thank you very much. What we expect, obviously, is we don't want to force young people into that. What we want them to lead on the quest and say, I'm ready for the next quest. So we're building in systems where they can be, or they should be leading it. And each time that it is being led like that, our learning mentors, our teachers, can join them on the quests. And so the most important bit, also so can other people from their class can join them on the quests. And as more people join them, as their fellowship, we just stole that from the Lord of the Rings, by the way. As that fellowship grows, you can't beat Tolkien. So as their fellowship grows and their classmate grows, the adventures become more complex, but also they start to rely on teamwork, and so start bringing those connections together, so they can build connections over things. So we want children coming home from school, not necessarily saying, not necessarily going, what did you learn today? I don't know. We want them to come back and say, we fought a dragon and we used maths. That's the goal, and I think you can see there's the building blocks there to make that happen. So thank you very much for listening to our little part of it, and I hope you can give us some feedback at some point. Thank you.
Fantastic. There's a lot of smart people here. So that leads us nicely into looking at unauthorised absence. So this is actually a film by Natalie Lauren and Joe Clayton, who are both former teachers. And it's a film that offers a unique perspective on an issue that's become one of the biggest in education today, which is school attendance, or the idea of school attendance. It aims to highlight the experience of children and families affected by those challenges and to encourage discussions around the issues that it's going to raise. So we're gonna have a little look at it now, I think.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Natalie. I am the immensely proud producer of the Unauthorised Absence short film. What you just saw was not the trailer, don't worry. That was a behind-the-scenes video that was done by Sunbelt Rentals. They provided the equipment for the camera and the lighting, and they also joined us for one of our 4 days of shooting. As was so kindly introduced, and as hopefully you know, if you're not, I've not done my job well enough, Unauthorised Absence is a short film. It's a scripted drama, it's not a documentary, and it is about the struggles that one mother faces trying to access support for her 9-year-old daughter. It was written by Joe, who we'll hear from very shortly, and our ambition, or our scope, I guess, within the education sector is really about raising awareness for the immense harm caused by financial fines and criminal prosecutions on families such as this. So we're very delighted to be showing the trailer with you this evening. It's the first time that anybody apart from the core team has seen any images of the film, and it was about half an hour ago that kind of dawned on me and made me very nervous. So I really hope you like it. I should also say that it's being shared with you all exclusively and privately this evening. The film is not quite finished, but we're very, very close, and we're still working out between ourselves what the best way to distribute both the trailer and the film will be in order to reach as many people as we possibly can, and particularly the audiences that we think would very much benefit from experiencing some of the issues of these families through the eyes of people that have actually lived them. Our ambition is really to put the lived experience back into the conversation that's all too often data-driven around policy reform. The other thing I want to say is that filmmaking is a team sport, and that is no more true than on this production. If we thought of just the people that have funded the film, we have 275 individual people that have each contributed to the budget of the film. 275 people, I can't even wrap my head around it. Our youngest donor is a 9-year-old child who gave her £3 pocket money to help. I know, I promise I didn't know that at the time, otherwise I would have absolutely said, please don't worry. £3, that's so sweet. I don't think I can get a coffee from Pret, but that's so kind. But I think that is such a powerful indicator of the amount at which this film means something to people. It's also true that we would no way be able to have made this film at the scale and the quality that we have without so many of the people that are in this room. So I'd really like to thank you all so much that's for supporting and raising awareness about the film that we're trying to make, for sharing your stories with us, your research, your expertise. We've had the absolute privilege of speaking to teachers, parents, children, lawyers, academics, psychologists, psychiatrists, so many more, social workers, politicians, and that's, I hope, all imbued within a final film that can maybe be the thing that can get empathy-driven reforms over the line. So the system is vast and its procedures are complex, and every family's story and circumstances are different. We know that. The stories that we have heard are honestly enough to fill a multi-series TV show, let alone a 15-minute short film. But what Jo's script, I think, it does so beautifully and powerfully is tell one specific family's journey and their story through a very specific part of their education experience. But she does it in such a way that it is so nuanced and riddled with things of authenticity and validity that hopefully through one person or one family's journey you will be able to recognise the many others that are affected by these issues. So, Mark, this is cue number 1, or technically 2. Let's show you the trailer for Unauthorised Absence.
Hello. It's a bit surreal. This film, or the beginning of this film, my contribution to this film started probably about 10 years ago on an Arvon writing course. I hadn't been away from my child for 10 years, and I was given a bit of space to actually think and to reflect on what was happening to my family and to other families that I had managed to meet online in a group called Not Fine in School. And and now it's become a film and it's become a trailer, and here I am standing at the Royal Society of Arts feeling quite discombobulated by the whole thing. But the reason that I wrote the film is because before I became a parent, I was a teacher. I was a peripatetic teacher working in hundreds of schools with thousands of children, and I knew then that things weren't working well for too many children, too many bloody brilliant children who I really loved. I had the privilege of being a drama teacher, so much of my work wasn't about sitting down and learning. It was about embodying things and being in a room and feeling things and expressing them. And when everything went wrong for my child, my job finished overnight because my child needed me in the room with her 24/7. And some of the people in this room have been on that journey with me and know how hard that it's been. But I've always been a storyteller. I carried on being a storyteller, and I wanted to condense not just my story and our family story, but the story of literally thousands of people who are going through this god-awful system where your child can't access education and your child starts to break down in front of you, and when you ask for support, you don't get support, you get blame. Your child gets blamed, you get blamed, and then that ramps up into fines, and then it ramps up into the threat of prosecution. And the disconnect between what is right in the world and what is wrong in the world just comes really viscerally home at this point. And so that's what this film is about. It's about saying, this is not what we should be doing to children. This is not what we should be doing to families. We need support, and we need support for our teachers as well, because nobody goes into teaching in order to prop up a system that is causing harm. People go into teaching, and many of you are in this room, because you want to make a difference and you desperately care about young people. And very grateful to Odyssey, Ohana, Charu and David for supporting us in this and helping us to make it. And thank you so much for being here today. And I know there's so many people in this room who've really created a community around this film, which comes out in, I just wrote the script. So many other people brought their creativity and their whole hearts to this process. So incredibly grateful to those wonderful people and thank them. And thank you all for coming to celebrate this milestone with us. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to introduce a student. This is Lani Arya, who attends Odyssey House School. Hello, and we're gonna listen to Lani now. Go ahead.
The right way round, Lani. I don't really know how I'm supposed to follow all that, so I'm just gonna yap for a bit and pretend that I know what I'm doing. Okay. Hi. Okay, I'm Lani, which Tom just said. Okay. If you'd met me a few years ago, you may have thought that I didn't like school. But the reality was completely different. I'd always loved learning. I was curious, full of questions, always wanting to do my best. The problem was never my desire to learn. It was that the environment I was in made learning so much more difficult than it needed to be. My education journey has been shaped by one very important realization. Autistic young people do not need to be changed. They need to be understood. I went to a grammar school, and I want to make this very clear. It was not a bad school. The teachers cared about me more than you could imagine, and they wanted to support me, like I'm sure many of you do in this room. I will always appreciate the people there who went above and beyond in trying to help me. But the truth is, sometimes a school can be full of amazing people and still not be the right fit for certain students. I'm autistic, and I also live with OCD and several other long-term chronic illnesses. This means that my school experience has been messy, to say the least, and has been affected by things that you might not see from the outside. Sensory overload, anxiety, fatigue, brain fog, pain, dizziness, digestive issues, they all became a part of my daily reality. For most kids, the school day begins at 9 a.m. when they walk through the gates. But for me, it began long before I had even arrived. I was using so much energy to manage my symptoms and process a world that wasn't built for me, that by the time I even got into the classroom, my tank was just empty. I remember sitting in a specific desk. The fluorescent lights, they were humming like a swarm of bees in my ears, and my stomach was just churning. Not because I didn't know the answers, I did, but because my brain was fighting a war against the environment just to read the words on the page. Autism is often misunderstood. Most people only see the outside. You might see a student who is quiet, who seems fine, or who is trying their hardest. But you don't always see the internal battle and mental load it takes to navigate a world that is simply just working against you. For me, the large classrooms, busy corridors, and constant pressure of mainstream education was suffocating. The very place that was supposed to help me grow was holding me back, before I'd even had a chance to reach the starting line. I found myself spending so much of my energy trying to cope and fit in that I wasn't even able to lean into any of the many things I was capable of. And I think that's one of the most important things to understand. Sometimes, when a young person is struggling at school, we assume that they're not trying hard enough. But a lot of the time, that young person is trying harder than anyone could ever realize. It's like being a square asked to fit through a circular hole. The only way to get through is to shave off parts of yourself. And you spend so long breaking yourself apart that you don't get the chance to accomplish what you actually set out to do in the first place. Truthfully, finding the right environment wasn't simply deciding to move schools. One of the hardest things in my journey was actually accessing the support I needed to get there. Like a lot of families with autistic young people, there was a fight to be had. Getting an education, health and care plan, or EHCP, is not a simple task. EHCPs are supposed to make sure that children and families get the right support. But for many, accessing one can be a long and exhausting battle. So many kids have this exact same story, what I'm about to say. It's not just me. I get to be up here talking on the stage because I know cool people, and that's really nice for me. But it's not just me. Okay. Back to the text, okay. I can do this, good. There are meetings, paperwork, assessments, and difficult conversations. At a time when my family was already trying to support my health, we had to explain why that support was necessary. And that was incredibly difficult and very invalidating. Because behind every single application is a real person and a real family. A person who is simply trying to access an education that works for them. It can be so frustrating when you know what you need, but no one is listening. We are told the EHCP system is a safety net, but for many of us, it feels like a high jump bar that keeps getting raised higher, just when we're getting ready to run. While my mother and I were fighting for a piece of paper, my actual life was slipping away. My health continued to deteriorate, and my grades, they plummeted. But the fight for my EHCP was long and grueling, and it was quite frankly terrible. But in the middle of that darkness, the only way I found to survive was by diving into advocacy. Even while fighting through that exhausting process, I began saying yes to opportunities I never thought would be possible. I had the privilege of speaking in Parliament and working on campaigns such as Vanish's More Than Just Clothes and Hassel's Contradictions campaign, which reached 13 million views across various platforms. I became a public figure, creating content about autism, OCD, mental health, and inclusion, proving to myself that my voice mattered, even when the system refused to listen. But eventually, after what felt like lifetimes, I was finally able to access the support that allowed me to join Odyssey House School. And that changed everything for me. Odyssey is an autism-centered school. The difference was not that my challenges suddenly went away. It was that I was finally in an environment that actually understood me. Instead of spending every minute of every day re-explaining why something was difficult, the people around me already understood that some brains, they just worked differently. The school is small and close-knit. The staff know their students as people, not just names on a register or a set of needs in an EHCP. They understand that support is not about lowering expectations, but removing barriers so students can reach those expectations. For the first time in a really long time, I felt like I could focus my energy and efforts on learning rather than simply just surviving the school day. And the impact that had on me, my health, my education, my family, and my confidence, it was massive. When you spend so long feeling like you don't fit in, it can really affect you. Eventually, you start to believe that maybe you are the problem. But finding the right environment helped me realize I was never the problem, contrary to Taylor Swift's anti-hero. I was just a young person who desperately needed the right support. At Odyssey, the silence wasn't empty, it was supportive. I began to realize that my symptoms weren't failings, they were data points on how my brain worked. And once I had support, I began to thrive. I would never have been able to do all that without my own determination, but also without the support that I found in finding the right environment. But the most important thing isn't what these opportunities say about me. It's about what they show can happen when young people have finally been given the chance to flourish. It shouldn't have taken me a battle to get here, but I'm so grateful it did. It showed me the person I could be. Autistic young people have so much to offer. We're creative, passionate, determined, and capable. But sometimes those strengths are hidden because we spend so much energy trying to navigate a world that wasn't designed for us. Inclusive education is not about making things easier. It's about making things possible. It's about recognizing that different students have different needs, strengths, and ways of learning. Society often tries to teach autistic students how to be a student, rather than trying to teach the system how to be an environment that a student can grow. My journey has taught me that the right environment can change absolutely everything. It can reveal how a young person feels about themselves. It can change their confidence, their future. Odyssey House School did not change who I was. They gave me the space, understanding, and support to become the person I always had the potential to be. I hope that when we talk about autism in education, we start to remember that behind every statistic is a young person with dreams, potential, and talent. Young people don't need to be fixed. They need to be seen, understood, and given the opportunity to flourish. I'm 16. I'm autistic. I'm a student. And I'm proof that when you start trying to fix the person and start trying to fix the environment, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Thank you.
Fantastic. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have a panel of parents who are going to come forward now. And in fact, I'd invite them to come forward now, if that's okay. I just want to start, obviously, by welcoming you all. And I'm going to sort of open up the floor and maybe start with you, Carrie, simply because you were the first person to speak today. If you want to just spend a few minutes telling us about your story and maybe a little bit of an introduction to you in terms of the context of this.
Yeah, in terms of the context of this, I think that just I guess I'm just going to leap off what you've just said was amazing, and the filmmakers as well. It's just, I think as parents, because this is the parent panel, it's how we go from being that really confident. It's like you're talking about being a confident school, pupil, and as parents, many of us start our journey fairly confident, thinking I can do that. It's not rocket science being a parent, right? And it's not rocket science being a parent, so that should be quite straightforward. And when you realise that actually all your best laid plans don't work, it is like being in Goo Goo Gaga world. It honestly is. Like you've just entered this whole world that it's a bit like entering that Ohana school thing, but not knowing what's going on. Like, you're just like, I'm in the middle of a game, but no one's told me the rules because clearly the rules are not working for my child. And so that sense of belonging gets lost. And I think that's something that you just, maybe it's privilege, but I think we just assume that you'll have a sense of belonging when you like with the other parents and with the other children, that belonging will happen. And the opposite of belonging is not belonging. The opposite of belonging is fitting in. And I feel like that's what we embark on, is this journey of trying to fit into spaces we don't fit. And that's us as parents, and that's our children. But I think as parents, it's devastating for parents, actually. And we don't talk about that enough. I think we obviously have to be very focused on the children. But as this is a parent panel, I just want to honour these incredible parents that are sitting here, because honestly, I don't know how we are putting one foot in front of another, because not only are we becoming super parents and so attuned to these children, not only are we fighting on every single front, but we are gaslit at the same time. And I think that to me, the cruelty of that is really quite profound. So that's my experience as a parent. I don't know what anybody else has been through, but I do know a little bit because there's two of my parents from my group here. But they can tell you their stories. But yeah, that's, I think, the hardest thing.
Do you want to pass the mic on?
So I'm Prina. I'm Lani's mum. And I'll start by saying, when I grow up, I want to be like Lani. Because her determination has what's made my journey as a mum possible. And I totally agree what you say about that utter battle you face. The one thing that gets to me the most? People tell me, oh, you're so incredible, you made all these things happen for her, you're so resilient. Guess what? I didn't ask to be resilient. I shouldn't have had to be resilient. I shouldn't have had to lose my marriage, almost lose my life to ill health. I should have had the support that Lani needed to be the amazing person she is. Her little sister, at the age of 3, didn't need to become a young carer, checking that her sister's fine and not trying to do something that would mean she ended up in hospital. I shouldn't have had to beg social services to get involved, fight camps, fight the education system so that she can thrive today. I'm so grateful I did, and I broke the barriers of, especially the Indian society. boy, have I lost so much because I chose to embrace her autism rather than let it be the taboo and not let people talk about it. But you know what? Yes, I've done it, and these parents here today have done it, but there's so many parents that don't have that strength and don't have that voice, and there's so many children that fall through the crack for it. And that's why I speak loudly and I advocate, because if I can help change her life, I can help give someone else hope that they can change their child's life too.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and like many people here, can relate to the stories that have been told this evening. I have 3 adult children who are all neurodivergent. My youngest has serious mental health difficulties. I gave up my career as a lawyer to support her when she couldn't attend school, and she stopped attending when she was 11 and hasn't been back. They never found a suitable placement for her, and her mental health remains so poor that she rarely leaves the house. I turned that pain into passion, advocacy, and run a parent carer forum in Barnet, our local authority, to support parents who don't have a voice, to support those who are so overwhelmed with life that they can't fight for their own children. Perhaps English isn't their first language. Perhaps they are just find it's so difficult to understand what support should be available for their children that often their children go with nothing. And Carrie spoke a lot about voice before earlier, and that really resonated with me. And I do try and build bridges. I am, on the one hand, a parent care representative supporting parents in similar positions, but also work really closely with the authorities in Barnet to make sure that those voices are heard, to make sure that the local authority listens and uses that information to adapt the support and services that are available. And that has become cathartic for me, but also drives me every day. And I'd like to think that all my children, but especially my youngest, is really proud of that, because she knows that it isn't just her. She knows that our family is not unique, and she knows that I am taking what has been so painful for us into, I hope, a powerful situation for other families. I just wanted to acknowledge one thing which has been touched on a little, and you touched on it just now, which I'm grateful for, and that is the fact that this doesn't just impact our young people when this happens, when they're perhaps up to 25, which is the age that SEND is meant to support them to. Yeah, exactly. But it's lifelong, and if there isn't early intervention, if we don't support our young people, then where does it leave them? It leaves them at home drawing on benefits. It leaves them not giving back to their society. It leaves them with just a fraction of the life that they should be leading, and it leaves families like us in crisis, not just for those young people, but their siblings who struggle greatly, who become young carers, who have their own needs that are ignored often, and it leaves parents literally on the edge. And we're not just fighting for our young people, we're fighting for our entire families. And I think often that gets dismissed. People don't see that. They just see the young person. They don't see the damage that it does to everybody. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know we all experience that too. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Amber. I'm going to try not to cry. I find this really emotional. My son has the pleasure of going to school with Lani. I feel like Odyssey House really saved his life. It took us a 7-year battle to get to Odyssey. Sorry, I didn't think I'd be emotional. I thought I was going to hold it together. Before we got to Odyssey, my son was very suicidal. He found mainstream educational unbearable. The support wasn't there. At one point, he was left boxed between 2 desks with a transformer, and I didn't really know what to do or how I could fight it. His original primary school, the Senko, was very sadly not a very helpful person, and it sort of pushed me to realised that I need to fight for him. Thank you. Sorry. And fight for him. And I found the power, and I did tons of research. I took advantage of everything that the borough of Camden, which, for all its faults, is an incredible Sen borough, and I think it's miles ahead of other boroughs in some ways. And I took advantage of everything that they had to offer and all the support they offered, and I learned as much as I could, and I decided I was going to fight to get where we are today. We moved primary schools, and I met an incredible Senko who said, let's do it, we can get the EHCP, and it, I think, nearly killed me and my son. But we got the EHCP, we went to court. David was so kind and joined me in court and advocated for my son to be at Odyssey, and since he's been there, it's changed not only his life, my whole family's life, his little sister's life, just showing that he fits in, that he can go and be himself. He sings, he dances, he did a presentation in front of the whole school. He's decided he wants to be a chef.
Cheese caramel.
Yeah, he bakes incredible bread, and I think that it's so incredible to be in a room of people that can see how important it is to find a school that is not forcing your child to change and just says, we accept you as we are, we love you as you are, how can we make this better for you? He doesn't have depression, he doesn't want to die, he goes to school every day, and even on days when he says, I'm not going, I'm not putting my shoes on, within 20 minutes, maybe an hour, he's put his shoes on, he's got his bag full of Transformers, and he's gone to school and he has a fabulous day. And I just think that it's so sad that so many parents have to fight so hard and arm themselves, and it becomes a battle that will almost, again, divorce your family, nearly put you in hospital from ill health. And I just think that we shouldn't have to fight that hard. And I can't say how grateful I am for Odyssey House for saving my son, saving my family, and just making a place where children feel really seen and loved, and my son's learning for the first time in 11 years. So thank you so much, and sorry for crying.
Evening, everyone. My name's Amma, and I'm in Carrie and David's parent group. And my story is when my daughter was seemingly happy. She was in secondary school, and like so many young people, the pandemic proved to be the tipping point for her. She had a total mental collapse, something that we now know was an autistic meltdown, but we didn't know of that diagnosis. And so many of the things that have been said here chime with us. What happened for her is that the school rang us up to say she was taking part in online lessons, but she was tears streaming down her face, and they saw her self-harming. We did not see that first. They saw it on the screen, and they rang us. And so we were, what is happening? And that was the beginning of a complete nightmare. And I think, like many people, we've had varying experiences. What I would say is, with CAMS, you can get help. You have to be so ill. You must be nearly dying. I remember asking for help because of self-harm. And I was asked if it was near a major artery. If it's bad enough, you will get help. So we did get some help. But the things that really we needed, I said to her school, because obviously they were scared, they wanted her to leave. I mean, you know, they didn't want a child who was so ill. I said, I need a daughter chimes with things that have been said. I need a daughter. I don't have to have a daughter with GCSEs, but she needs to be at this school. She needs her friends. The collapse was because she was not with friends. And to their credit, the school kept her on. The crisis showed some things for them. It showed that they paid lip service to safeguarding. They had to look and see who was the safeguarding lead. Senko, what was that? EHCP, what's that? So they went on a journey, the two of us, and she clearly needed an EHCP. She was ill enough to be assessed quickly. But they had no idea about how really to support. So she stayed in the same school, but because they were so scared, they allowed my husband and I to almost make her school day. Now, I know that can't happen at loads of schools, but it happened at that school because they were so frightened. And they thought, okay, if you don't want 10 A stars, that's great. What can we do? And so we created a school day that she could tolerate. Don't forget, we're still in pandemic, no one's living a normal life. We got rid of all the lessons that we thought would upset her. She has tactile sensitivities. So we got rid of assembly. We got rid of coming in early. We got rid of those carousel lessons where you talk about whatever you talk about. And we looked at the timetable. And she's a gifted child, and she went, can I drop French? and we kind of thought, well, I mean, is that the only thing you want to drop? And so she dropped a couple of subjects, and they allowed us. They allowed us to bring her in when she could tolerate school and not when she couldn't. She has always used art as a self-soothe. Before we knew she had that diagnosis, she was prolific with drawing. She's never without an iPad or a pen and paper. And they allowed her to doodle. That was a huge thing, to understand what it takes for her to focus. So it was okay for her to doodle during classes. And she needed that. They listened to the risk assessments so they could see when she was going off. So it's not just for us to know when she's going off. She used to become very rude. She used to swear. And she never used to use profanity unless she was going into a meltdown. So they took the time to understand that. And long story short, I know this short talks, we got her through to year 11. It's clear she couldn't stay at that school. Clear. It's too big. And she needed a smaller school. We'd got the EHCP. So you can imagine how incredible it was when they said, we won't keep the EHCP unless you go to a different school. And that school was a 1,000 pupil academy, where she would have been eaten alive. And I went to the school. I wasn't going to be one of those posh parents who wasn't going to look. I went and looked, spent hours with the Senko, and I said, my child can't come here. And he said he understood. Now, we had means, and we put her in a small school that suited her, whilst we fought for the proper EHCP. And a long story short, we got that. She uses her art. She's 20 now. She's at uni doing an art degree. So we had good and bad experiences. And I just wanted to share that with you. A lot of chiming with people here. My daughter's mixed race. Her dad's Irish, proud Irishman. But so she, as she tells us, she's not like either of us. And then she really has her own identity, which involves a lot of piercings and a lot of tattoos and a lot of attitude.
It's also worth knowing that the school that Amma is talking about is the same school. My child is 5 years older than Amma's child, and this is the same school where the headmaster sent me the letter, sent me the email. So it is interesting to see how much schools can change. That was 5 years later.
Yeah. Well, that leads me nicely on to, because I really just want this to be more a conversation with you guys now just for the next few minutes, which is around what do you wish schools had understood or done that maybe they could have done, or maybe they couldn't have done? But what do you wish schools had understood? And maybe start with you, Lisa, and then maybe we could. Yeah, maybe
I have
we
the
could
power.
then feel free to cut in and interrupt as though it's a conversation.
I think the biggie for me is communication with parents, and I mean decent communication, not sending emails accidentally, although it obviously helped you in the end. We felt very unheard. My daughter felt very unheard. And the help when we got it was too late. She was already in severe mental health crisis, which sadly 10 years on we've really not been able to reverse. So for me it would be about really listening to parents, really appreciating how masking works, and that just because a child appears fine in school, they aren't necessarily fine in school. If a parent is telling you that the second they walk out the door they're having a complete breakdown, then that needs to be acknowledged. If they're not eating, if they're not sleeping, that needs to be acknowledged. And for us it wasn't. You know, we were fined because of her attendance, and we were treated as if we were the problem. So I try really hard now to work with schools around early intervention and look at the push and pull factors for young people to accept, as we said, they're not all the same. For some, their friends will keep them coming in even if they're struggling, but for others, friendship and bullying is the problem, and that needs to be acknowledged too. So when we've worked on some EBSA guidance in Barnet, which we share with professionals and parents, and it's completely co-produced. A lot of parental input went into that as well, and it is around the early intervention, the looking at the push and pull factors, the considering the children as individuals and their family situations as well, and then really trying to understand, as Amma has said, you know, what will work for them, what do we need to look at for them. So that's what I think needs to happen. In our case, none of that happened at all, and we've absolutely paid the price for that. And I'd love to sit here and say, well, this worked for us. We were never given that opportunity, and we now have probably a lifetime of trying to reverse that. So it just shows how crucial those conversations are, and the timing of those conversations are crucial as well. Don't wait until there's crisis. Don't wait until the child needs an EHCP. And we hear constantly about SEN reform and about how too many children are getting EHCPs. Well, that's because they're not getting the support they need. Yes. That's the problem. You know, wind it back, give them the support, and perhaps some of them won't need an EHCP, but don't wait until that crisis point. So that's what I feel really passionate about. So thank you.
I can come in. So agree with you there. Right support at the right time and early intervention can make a huge difference. I think the bit that's slightly different and resonates for me is something Lani's old school, so the grammar school she was at the point where they were like, she needs a specialist school. One thing they say to me was, we wish we hadn't tried this hard to keep her here. And I love them for the fact they fought so hard for Lani, but even they acknowledge, and I acknowledge, I wish they'd given up a little bit earlier. That could have meant Lani could have started at Odyssey earlier. It could have meant Lani doesn't have to take an extra year to complete her GCSEs, and it means life could have carried on as it needed to. Now, these are what ifs, we can't change them, but I would say to educators here that recognize that, you know, we are throwing absolutely everything we can with IEPs or EHCPs to do it. And we are doing everything we can to support a child to stay in school. Sometimes it's kinder to be cruel earlier on and say, like, actually, you're determined to fight and get help for your child. Let's fight together earlier. We don't want to exclude your child from this school, but we want to get her into the right school sooner, rather than let's be the rule breakers and say, like, actually, we're going to say your child can't be in this school. So that forces the council's hand in providing her the education she needs. And it was when Lani got admitted in hospital on my birthday, I remember the safeguarding lead and me had a call and he said, are you okay if we tell the local authority we're going to refuse her from coming back to the school? We don't think we can keep her safe. And that will mean they will have to find her education. And I said yes. and they say, we wish we'd done this sooner. We wish we'd done this at the first or the second hospital admission rather than make you wait this many years.
Good point. I just want to add, thank you so much, just our humanity, that of course we're just being, down this line, we're just being mums. We don't come into the school with a role. If you're a professional, you're in your role, but we are all still humans, and it's to remember our humanity, that we're all just trying to do the best we can with what we have. And I think that's really important to remember. It's important that us parents also remember that behind that person that doesn't seem to be doing what you want is a human, is someone who's got a senior leadership team who's probably very difficult. You know, your jobs are difficult if you're a professional, so it's important on both sides to remember that we are really trying to do our very best. And there is a best. I think we've seen that this evening. There is a best. And some of us have got stories of best. So we know that best can be done. I think that, and also parents are your greatest resource. Like, I know in our group that we've run for 15 years, those people that have now got 25-year-olds can say so much to those parents that have got 5-year-olds. So it's actually gathering the village. I think gathering the village is really important. Yeah.
Look, I won't cry this time, I promise. I just really wish that we didn't have to fight so hard. I wish it wasn't such a battle. And even up until, say, a year or two ago, I was having to share knowledge that I had gathered with my son's school because for some reason some of this information wasn't shared. So it was like, I feel sad for us all a little bit that we've had to fight this hard, that it's had to be this difficult. But on another hand, I think it's empowering. I've done the same as you ladies, where I've worked really closely with Camden now to try and help them learn from some of their mistakes and learn that not every EHCP situation is cardboard cutout. Autism comes in all shapes and sizes. I'm still working with them to help them understand that, because it's not one for all. And I just wish we didn't have to do that as parents, because they're meant to be our sort of guiding light, help us through the hard time. And I just wish we didn't have to fight so hard. But if I didn't fight so hard, I wouldn't be here. So in a way, it's blessing in disguise, because I feel grateful that I'm in a room like this and I get to meet magical people, and my son's really happy. I just wish it wasn't so hard for everyone.
Really echoing what's been said. What I feel is that we should not have to fight, and that if you ask me what a school should do, it sounds trite, but it really should be child-centred. So they shouldn't be so obsessed with the attendance record, the attendance at assemblies and things like that. But the conversation I want to have with the head or the Senko is them being curious about what my child needs, because guess what? I know my child better than them. I don't want their theory that, oh, you've probably been doing this and she's doing that. But I live with my child. And that feeling that the parents know their children, that is what I think the authorities, the school authorities, need to change. Because parents know their children at least better than they do. But it's that feeling of they've got their own plan. They know why this is happening. And the stories you hear of, these telephone calls about children not being in school, or, teachers going to the house. I mean, the way I describe it, I didn't have to make that particular fight, but, going to school is a bit like, for a child, touching a hot coal. It actually damages them to have to go and do that. And that they need, the teachers need, the school needs to understand that. So my big thing is, listen to parents. They know their children, and think about what would be best for the child. Not your registers, not your league table. What's good for the child.
So we're gonna just have a final quick fire question to finish off with, which is, if you had 5 minutes.
Don't do croutons.
Well, I've realised that. But if you had
too much history to do croutons, isn't it?
if you had 5 minutes with every head teacher in the country, what would you want them to know about supporting families facing school attendance issues? And maybe it could be the thing that you would say to them if they were in the room now, and this was like the ASCL conference or something. What would you say to them all if you had that conversation? Anyone can start.
I'm holding the mic again. I think I would say that in so many cases, the children and young people really want to be in school. They often treat it as if these children don't want to be there, but actually they really do. They just want to belong. They want to be, and I don't like this word, but it seems fitting, normal and fit in. And they are not staying at home because they don't want to learn or they don't want to be with their friends. They're staying at home because, like Emma said, it's painful for them to be in school and they can't manage it. So I think I'd really just like them to appreciate that this isn't what the children want. They want to be in school. And we really owe it to them and their families to try and find a way to do that. And I think going back to what's been said before, that there is no one size fits all, that these are very individual children, just like all children are, and that it is so important to listen to them and listen to the families and try and work with them. We talk about co-production a lot. It is the essence of what I do day in, day out, but there's meaning behind that word, and it means working together. It means hearing all the voices and trying to find a way forward. So I would really want teachers to understand that this is a path that we all need to tread. And I'm, aside from the work that I do in the forum, I'm also chair of governors at a Barnet school, and I'm their link safeguarding and send governor. So I see this from schools and teachers' point of view as well. I wear lots of different hats that all kind of feed back into the same thing. But I think it gives me a really good insight into what teachers and schools are experiencing as well. And it gives me the ability to see things from all angles as a parent carer rep, and working within a school as a volunteer as well. And that really helps me to appreciate the difficulties that the schools are under. And I really do understand that. But talking, working together, working in co-production and really listening is just key to a way forward on this.
I think I would say, if you have any power and you're an educator, are you brave enough to start a revolution? I don't have anything else to say.
There's a theme there, isn't there?
I'm lucky Lani's head teachers have been phenomenal, but recognise it's not the head teacher, it's the issue, it's the way the education system's set up. So I'd say let's take it a step further and bring the rule breakers into the Department of Education. And something I laugh with Lani about is she's like, I'm like, Lani, one day you're going to be Prime Minister. Now, I'm a civil servant, so she says, can you move to the Department of Education and get me the evidence, because then we can have a class action lawsuit against all the SEND children that have failed, not to get money out of them, but for reform. And that's what's needed. You know, what about getting the rule breakers who understand how difficult education is and are trying to change it for the select few? How about getting those rule breakers like Charu and David and getting them to be the people that are those decision makers? Because that's what's going to help those heads that want to support children and can't.
Yeah, you took the words out my mouth. I'm not going to yap on, but it's true, because the issue's not the head teachers, it's what's going on above. And I just think that not even just for our special children, but all children, like my neurotypical daughter, I feel like she deserves a different educational environment as well, because I just don't think it's right how it is right now. I think there just needs a big overhaul. So yeah, I'm with you, let's go.
I'd certainly say it is a comment on the system. Don't criminalise parents when they are looking after their children. Their children cannot come in. And don't feel that SEND children don't have potential. They have as much potential. And the system and the educationalists need to think about maximising that. But don't criminalise parents who are doing their best for their children.
Thank you very much, everybody. We're now going to move on swiftly to our panel number 2, which is going to be... Give them a clap. Come on. It's amazing. Here's the mic. So, if you were... I'm going to time you on these. All right, so we've got strictly 10 minutes. If we were designing an education system today, knowing what we know now, what would you do differently? 30 seconds per person.
Oh, Jesus. Go.
I would extend play up to age 7, and I would make it a statutory part of the curriculum.
As has been said, it's about looking at a child's needs before looking at their data. So having an education system that tries to understand the person that's in front of them and their unique barriers to learning. I would also tack on maybe not financially fining and criminally prosecuting parents that are doing the best thing by their child.
Probably find a way to get around Ofsted a bit more. Simply because as much as we're independent schools and we've got a bit more freedom to do various things, unfortunately, there is a system, and if we don't follow that system and we don't stick to record keeping and we don't have the evidence to show progress, then we're back to being an inadequate school. So we can't win all the battles, and I suppose it's about trying to find a way to get some policymakers to understand what schools like this really need, and it is a real overhaul of the system.
Yeah, I think there's loads going on at the parents and educators level. I see there's lots of meetings, there's lots of conferences going on now, and I've seen that in the last sort of 15 years that I've been involved. But what I still don't see is dialogue between Ofsted, DFE, and the teaching unions as well as parents. Obviously, I think that level of interaction doesn't happen. It feels like that happens in other areas, like in my industry, in the entertainment. It's like you would all be talking to each other. Like, why is it that you still can't get to see the DFE? Like, I've gone into Parliament so many times, I've been part of so many studies, spoken at so many things, never spoken to the DFE. So what is that why is that not happening? So I think that it's only when we have those conversations. Don't even get me on that.
Sorry, guys.
Love the big GC.
You said it.
But I think if we're going to talk about children, and involving children in that, because every child is gifted, and I think our education system doesn't fit all the different gifts that are out there. I think so it needs to be broader. But I think more than anything, we can talk about what we could do for kids all day long and dream up great dreams, and you're doing great stuff, which is, we can see it's right there. But when do you ever get to talk to the DFE? Probably never. So
I invited them.
Right, yeah. So the Children's Commissioner, the DFE, Ofsted, and then the teaching unions, I think there needs to be so much more happening at that level.
All right. So again, I want to ask you next, and again, a minute per person for this one. What does a school day look like in the year 2040 if things have evolved in a way that you deem to be a success?
Well, I know what it's going to look like.
Ohana.
Very, very close to, but I think there is Ohana is, yes, one way of a new way of education. But I do think that schools, are definitely still part of the story. They just have to keep up with the times. Because if we're doing what we're doing now in 2040, the generation that we've got, the future that is already, struggling to get the support to get to the right place. I mean, children like Lani, as she said herself, there's thousands of them out there, and they're hugely talented. And that's what our future should be. It shouldn't be despair. It shouldn't be them having to wait for all that time. So in 2040, we have to be in a place where our schools are prepared to deal with the next revolution, which is AI, which is technology, which is losing that human connection if we're not careful. And we just can't afford for our education system not to prepare children to get there. So I think we've got to keep up with the times.
2040, wow. I think one of the things that we as the film are really trying to champion is the fact that we believe that there should be a genuinely accessible place for every child in education, depending on what that looks like for them. So in 2040, I would like that to be the case. I'd like there to be a genuinely accessible place for every child in this country to access an education, and that if that is not happening for whatever reason, that they have genuine legal rights to be able to access and get it and change it. I think that's what I would like to see.
That's such a massive question, and it's quite an unfair question, because I'm just a writer and a parent and an ex-teacher. I would like to see I would like the day to be structured around learning that was meaningful, spaces that were meaningful, not just for but for everybody, for teachers as well, because I think as a teacher, when you're in front of a class and you're having a really good lesson and it's going really well, everybody is getting something out of that. And the data-driven, target-driven education system that we have cuts out so much space for that to happen, and puts everybody under so much pressure. So I would just like to see 80% of the pressure taken out of learning, and I would like to put, instead of the pressure, I'd like to put the meaning back. So that's not really answering your question, but
it did a bit. Just at this point, because I know this is the last bit and we're running out of time, but there was a bit on here that said sort of open floor.
Sorry.
So I thought,
Carrie hasn't answered.
I'm sorry, Carrie. Did you not answer that?
No, that's okay.
I am so sorry.
I suppose I would just add to what Joe's just said. I think, in fact, I think that, like, if you think about all the different jobs that are out there, and all the different working days that people have, and what work looks like, why is it that we're still just sending kids in to sit round desks? Like, it's nuts. Even us as adults wouldn't do that. So surely we could be more creative about how they actually do school. And why can't we think around gifts, and why can't we think around talents, and why can't we think around creativity? I really hate the fact that we're doing STEM, not STEAM. I feel like the arts are really, really important to every single area of endeavour once you leave school. And so I think we should introduce the concept of doing life, education for life, just living, like being your best self, but also education for work, like your purpose. What is your purpose in life, and how do we train you for your purpose? I feel like those kind of, the ideologies are just lost, and all we have is this really boring tick box system that doesn't inspire anybody, including the teachers. So I think it could look amazing if we had a more purposeful view of looking at it, more creative view. Let the creators get to work on it.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just wanted to say, it's not a question, just thank you to everybody that's sort of presented this evening. I'm a teacher, but I'm also a parent of 2 neurodiverse children, and I've been sat here, 2 people I've met this evening passing me tissues, I've been crying on and off all evening. It's been really good for my soul. As a family, we are at that breaking point. We are at the point where I can't see a future, or I couldn't see a future until I sat here this evening, and it's given me real hope, and I can't wait to get back on the train and text my husband, and I feel like you've given me an oomph that I needed, so thank you.
Can I just say, we need more people like you. We need more teachers who are also parents of neurodivergent people. We also need more neurodivergent teachers, because it's only then that we'll begin to... Yeah, one of those too. Great. Yeah, we love that. You know, something that was said to me when I was diagnosed as autistic, with the assessor said, your autism doesn't really show because you've created the environment in which you most flourish. And that sentence is the only thing I remember from my assessment, is actually how do we create environments in which we most flourish? Not that it shouldn't show, but just that actually you're just living your best life. Yeah.
I think that's a perfect place to finish. However, Charu, I think we're going to cut a ribbon on.
Oh, yes, of course. Because it was the launch, right? Great. Well, just before we do this, a big thank you to everyone. It has been an absolutely phenomenal evening, and it's been phenomenal, even more so, having heard all the stories, having had all the honesty, and having felt all that emotion. And really, in essence, this evening is everything that Ohana is about, because Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. So welcome to the family.